Yes, believe it or not, Florida is not just sunshine and beaches. Today we're going to talk about the 8 worst things about living in Southwest Florida. Hey everybody, my name's Craig Cunha. I am a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. If you are looking for more information about what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate in Southwest Florida, then this is the channel for you. So go ahead and subscribe and even comment down below so you're sure to see all the future videos as they come out. I'm getting calls from people every day about what it's like to move to this area and what it's like to live here, and I absolutely love it. So if you've got a question that you want an answer to, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. We're going to discuss the 8 worst things about living in Southwest Florida. In November 2020, Cape Coral Fort Myers ranked as the top inexpensive city to move to from another area. 75% of the people that moved out of their area into a new area chose Cape Coral Fort Myers. I'll be attaching the link down below so you can read the full article. Number 1, it's 2021. We were able to get out of 2020 and move on. So now, one of the things you may want to consider is if you're one of those people that gets upset or offended if people don't wear a mask, you may want to think again about coming to Florida. It's very open policy down here. There aren't a lot of restrictions. And as you can see in these videos, there are a lot of people out and about and not really concerned about the mask. So you'll either want to pick an area that might be a little more restricted or get used to the fact that this is what it's going to look like. The second worst thing about being here in Southwest Florida is the drivers. Yes, they do stink. You might have heard it before. They're impatient. They're in a hurry to get everywhere. They really lack the skills and knowledge to even be on the road. I mean, take a 4-way stop. Nobody seems to know who's going. So you either sit there for an extended period of time or you decide just to push ahead. They are starting to put in roundabouts, so it does make that decision making easier for them, but they still have to be able to come in into the roundabout and merge back out again. And in some cases, there's 2 lanes doing this. So it may not be the easiest decision for them. So again, you will have to exercise the patience to avoid getting in an accident. And number 3 is because of number 2, we have the 6th highest auto insurance rate for full coverage in the United States. And that's according to carinsurance.com. These bad drivers and even the infrastructure of the roads, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that's playing a part in all of this. Just know that in your cost, you might see a slight increase when driving in Florida. After talking about drivers and then having another topic coming up that's also related to this, we have to have a 3B in here. And what this is the tourist or the snowbirds, whatever you want to call them. Anytime between November and April, maybe even May, depending on what the weather does up north, we have an influx of people that come to visit here. With these extra tourists, we have longer wait times, lots of impatience, sometimes terrible service, a lot of bad attitudes. It probably should be number 1 on the list, but I didn't want to turn everybody off right at the beginning. It's one of the challenges that we experience here. It's also going to tie into a lot of our other topics later because we are growing. 950 people a day coming to Florida. It is something you're going to experience if you're here during those months. Just be ready for it. And the service part, we've experienced a lot of really good service in our area, but we are experiencing some pretty bad service as of late. Try to go in with a good attitude and not hold it against these people. They're working hard to try to help us, and it's discouraging for them as well. All right, number 4 is the roads and infrastructure here. Yes, we just talked about the insurances and what that's doing. Some of the roads, those roundabouts are going in, so it is maybe a welcome change in some cases, but there's a lot of construction going on all the time, it seems, and they pick the worst times to do it. Why are we doing it in the middle of the day or in rush hour traffic? Nighttime seems pretty obvious. Cooler temperatures, less people on the road. Anyway, get used to the road construction. It's not going away. We're going to continue to see a lot of construction because of the growth in the area. You'll look around and see buildings going in that are either apartments or the single family homes. You'll see just as many of those going in. Entire complexes getting ready to be put where there used to be a bunch of trees. And all this construction for more people means more traffic, means bigger roads. So we're going to be in a continual state of construction until we get where we need to be. Now, with all this change in the infrastructure and all that construction, we're starting to see more wildlife out and about. There's been some reports on the news of coyotes being in neighborhoods. We've always heard about bears and things like that, and the occasional panther, gators. All these things are being forced out of their natural habitat and therefore into our neighborhoods. So you do have to be on the lookout a little bit more these days, especially if you have small animals. We do have some large birds of prey here as well. The eagles do show up for our season, which is these cooler months of wintertime. So just be aware if you have those small animals, you just want to make sure you keep an eye on them when they go outside. The other thing about how everything's structured down here is our terrain's very flat. So you're not going to do any real hiking. We do have some nature trails and things like that if you just want to get out in nature. They are keeping a number of the preserves for us here, thank God. So you will have that access. And if you're a motorcyclist, it gets pretty boring sometimes. We try to find those couple roads that might twist and curve a little bit. Livingston is one of them. It extends from the Estero area down into Naples, and Buckingham Road out on the east side of Fort Myers. That also has some pretty decent turns in it as well. Now, number 5 on this worst things list is the wildlife, both in and out of the water. We mentioned the coyotes and the gators. There's iguanas, different types of snakes, panthers, bears, and one of my worst things is the frogs. I seem to have a invasion of them around my house, and they're messy. They stick to everything too. They climb the walls, they're stuck to your lanai furniture, and they leave an absolute mess. I've been researching how to get rid of frogs. If anybody has a tip for me, I heard that vinegar worked, but it didn't work for me. So if you know of how to get rid of these things, please comment so that I can get on that and get rid of these things. Okay, so in the water, the wildlife we have, it's much different most likely than where you're from. There are sharks, jellyfish, stingray, barracuda, and hundreds of other biting and stinging things. So just be aware, if you're sharing the water with these things, they very well could be there. You may want to choose the swimming pool back home or at the hotel. Number 6 is a bunch more biting things. You know, we seem to have a lot of them here. The bugs, tons of bugs. The first one's just plain annoying. It doesn't really bite. The love bugs will stick to every part of your vehicle. It's nasty. They're very difficult to get off, and you want to get them off so they don't mess up the paint. I know the one invasion seems to happen right around May all the time, but that is one of the annoyances. As far as the biting goes, you know, we do have the standard mosquitoes, the no-see-ums, which are the same thing. They're much smaller and they bite harder. That's going to be flying around. And if you happen to step in a pile of red ants, you'll know it tomorrow by blistering up and feeling that seething pain. Another thing about Florida, Southwest Florida, really the whole state, cost of living varies greatly between bigger cities and smaller cities, East Coast and West Coast, and coastal living and inland living. Florida as a whole, we average slightly higher than the US with the cost of living. Therefore, you need to check closely with those areas you're identifying for you to see how they compare with where you are now so that you can live affordably. You'll find that rent in the area is slightly higher. For a 2-bedroom, you're about $1,174. The national average, $1,148. So not too far off. As far as median price of homes, $237,000 in Florida, $231,000 nationwide. As you can see, not that much of a difference. It will vary from city to city, obviously. Those rental amounts and median home prices came from bestplaces.net. This cost of living map for the U.S. also shows that we're certainly not the worst, nor are we the best. So when considering Florida, you'll have to look at weighing out if the cost difference is worth the lifestyle you're receiving. Number 8 is talked to death. It's the weather. Yes, it's hot. Yes, it's humid. Yes, we get torrential rainstorms. The UV rays here, you're definitely going to want to get some sunblock and use it. The hurricanes, you'll hear about it constantly. It's not as bad as you think it is, and if you really don't want to test it out, then you can leave. We get a week's notice before a storm comes. You have plenty of time to get out. My bonus for the worst things in Southwest Florida is a personal thing to me because I see my kid doing this every single day, and it just irks me sometimes. But there's no lockers for these kids. They have to carry pounds and pounds of books around on their backs. I know I grew up with lockers, and I know many other states and cities still have them for those kids. This is just something that we have to deal with here, and it is quite annoying. The other thing about the schools, while I know it's done for the safety, all the schools around here seem to have fences and gates around them. Yes, they lock them down during the day. I know my son's school has a security guard out front that you have to stop at if you're going to try to access the property at all during the school hours. But when we were growing up, we used to go and use the sports fields, and we used to be on the playgrounds and all those things in these school areas. Can't do that anymore. Hopefully you learned something from this video, and if you want to know anything more about living in the area, what it's like, what it costs, places you should go, check out one of these other 2 videos. And if there's anything that I can do to help you answer any questions, again, you've got to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.